Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me Sukhmani again, and I just want to ask, did you guys miss my little yap sessions that I did last year, most of the year? If you guys did, you're in for a treat today because we're gonna talk about books. So, this is a little like mid year wrap up of all the books that I read in 2026 so far, and I'm pretty excited with some books and where some books are heading, and I just want to talk about it. So, let's get into it. So, the first book that I read was Blood and Midnight by Sarah Piper, and it was like something I just found on my audiobook app. And since last year, when I started the reading journey, I read quite a lot of fantasy in the beginning of the year, so I was hoping to kick off this year again with a bit of fantasy. But this book was just so not what I was looking for. I don't know. The story was not as gripping as I thought it would be, even though there were characters who were sort of interesting, but they just like landed somewhere in the middle. I did not feel that there was a beginning to the story somehow, especially while trying to get into a new world, if you know what I mean. So the next book that I read was Reluctantly Yours by Erin Hawkins, and this was obviously based in New York City, and there was romance between a boss and his assistant, and I did love the storyline even though it was a little bit predictable, especially if you've read quite a lot of Anna Huang books. Regular contemporary romance sort of acts as a palate cleanser sometimes, but also as something you really need to get back into reading. Like, you wanna just cry and laugh over those cheesy romantic lines. And I really did quite enjoy this book. And actually, I did enjoy this whole series. We'll get to it. The next book that I read was The Sweetest Oblivion. So, this was a mafia romance, and my god, was it a mafia romance. I enjoyed it quite a lot, and I had already seen so much recommendation for this book, though it was like none of these books were 5-star reads yet for me, but I did enjoy it quite a lot, with the whole trope of being attracted to somebody that you cannot really have at first, and then obviously everything goes crazy. So it was a nice read for me, especially in the beginning of the year when you are just like setting up the base for the whole year of reading. And then I read the second book in this series, The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Laurie. I liked it a little bit more than the first book because of MMC and the chemistry he had with the FMC. The next book that I read was again the second book in the Erin Hawkins series, Unexpectedly Mine, and this one was so funny. I actually did enjoy this one quite a lot more than the first book. This was about accidentally getting married in Vegas. I have read like impulsively getting married in obviously the Mile High books, the Windy City series with Isaiah Rhodes and Kennedy, I think so. The Isaiah was my favorite from that actually. But yeah, it was quite funny to read this one, and I do like a little bit of comedy in between, and it's like not in your face comedy, it's just like the situational comedy that is so fun to read. Then I read Accidentally Ours by Erin Hawkins. This was the third book. It was a little bit something that I felt a little weird about because of a huge age gap between the male and the female main characters. I actually am not really a fan of accidental pregnancies. That just is not something that I am too much interested about. That was the book that I read next. And then I came to one of my favorite mafia romance series. These books are like top tier. I do love a strong female character, and obviously, a strong male character is a mirror to that. But like sometimes you want to read the damsel in distress sort of series, and but this one was not it. This was like the characters bickering and the interactions with all the characters. The whole series was so good. I just cannot. This was The Bratva Butcher by TJ McGuire. I read the first book. I loved it. I read the first book obviously last year at the end of the year, and this was like I think so the fourth book in the series. There are 5 books in total: The Bratva Butcher and The Bratva Menace. The storyline that is going on through these books and everything is just something. It's so I cannot even form words because it was so interesting. This character, like, I like books where there are different character dynamics and characters interact with each other and how they have like chemistry between each other, even if it's like not the main characters of that specific book, but the interactions they have in all the other books is just chef's kiss. The next book that I read was Surprisingly Us. Again, the last book in the Erin Hawkins series, and I did enjoy this one a little less. Like, it was a little too sudden for like the character to just come back into her life. So these two were supposed to be childhood friends, and then they grow apart, they grow up, and they come back, and just like I don't know, it was a little too abrupt for the storyline for me, I think so. The most I liked was the second book in this series. The next book I read was My Funny Demon Valentine. So these like this whole series is a little bit weird, but it also like is fun to read somehow. I don't know like how to describe it. Like, you imagine things that are happening, but then you can't imagine things that are happening because some of the things are just like way too different from how everything else is portrayed in this whole series. So this series is about a demon, like 4 demons who have sort of escaped hell and just like are living in the human realm, and then they obviously find like partners and all that stuff. The next book I read was My Demon Hunter. This one I think so related more to the character being a demon actually, because he behaved like a demon. It didn't feel like they're just saying words for the sake of like being a demon. He was like a little bit like, in this one you just like the mist demon a lot more, because obviously you can see the backstory that is coming in here, and like it was really interesting with the dynamics the characters had with other characters, and also like you see introduction of so many different characters that are not really part of these books but are coming up in further books. So it's a fun read. And now for our next segment, obviously I had to include and start reading a sports romance. And this time when I did go to the US, I did go to an NHL game. Yes, I went to the San Jose Sharks versus Anaheim Ducks, I think so. And man, and obviously, how can you not romanticize the hockey players after reading so many hockey romance books? I mean, how? Anyway, the first book that I read in the hockey romance series was Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. And believe you me, these were some gripping books. I do love sports romance books. These are like my favorite genre to fall back on if I am like a little too invested or a little too much in my head. These books, like, so good. I cannot. So the first one was Behind the Net. Then I read the second one, The Fake Out. Then I read the third one, The Wingman. Then I read the fourth one, Gloves Off. And then I read the fifth one, The Wild Card. It's something to be just in the midst of everything. I don't know how to explain it. If you're not a reader, you would not get it. If you know how you feel when you read these books, okay? Next book I read was Demon with Benefits, obviously from the same series that I was reading earlier by Aurora Asher. This was the book that told me that I don't want to read this series anymore. It was good, but it was not great. You know what I mean? Anyway, the next book I read was King of Envy by Anna Huang, because I had been reading this whole series last year. Like most of the books that I read this year up until now are like different books that came out after the series I've already read. The next book I read was Hunting the Hunter by Hannah Harp. This book was recommended on Instagram like so much, and this book made me realize, don't take recommendations from Instagram. Like I do it so much, like taking recommendations. Like where else am I going to find recommendations? Like there might be places, but you scroll on Instagram the most, so I'm not gonna say anything. Like this was something I did to myself. It was not Hunting the Hunter, it was Haunting the Hunter, sorry. I read the first book. The story starts like this is starting point, this is ending point of a storyline. The story starts here and you don't know like what's going on, because it doesn't make sense. Like so many things don't make sense in this book. And this book was marketed on the fact that it involves the reader at a point, and it just feels it. To be honest, I don't want to be part of it because it feels weird when they break the fourth wall, especially in books. I mean, I get it in movies. I don't know. Uh, I just felt weird reading this. There was like, I could not connect to any of the characters, to be honest. Next book that I read was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Good book, good writing, good romance, predictable a little bit, and I did enjoy it. Not so much spice though. It was fun to read though, I think so. I don't know why I keep doing thumbs up. I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, if you want like more detailed stuff, I do have like some reviews written on my Goodreads. You can check out in my link in the description. The next book that I read was Game On in the Into Darkness series by Navessa Allen. If you know me, you know I love Lights Out because Josh. Yes, sir. This book had a little bit of a different vibe from the other two books, even though we see a little bit of the darkness in the characters that we are interacting with. The storyline was so gripping. Sometimes you get frustrated with some characters, but then like you when you're reading a book, you get to know the backstory and why that character is thinking the way they are thinking. And I just love that about books, especially when they explore that part of the books. That's what has been missing in some of the books that I read. So that's why like I did not quite enjoy some of the books, but this one was not it. This one was like you can sort of relate to the characters, not to the actions that they take in the books, but how everything was sort of contradictory, and how we sometimes are hypocritical about things and behave a certain way because of the things that happened in the past. And how I don't know, I feel like I related a lot to some moments in this book, because I sort of am full of contradictions, and like I like to say one thing sometimes and then I say the other thing that also makes sense to me, but then is this life is full of contradictions. And also I do love the layers upon layers of contradiction that the characters have. I don't know why I'm saying contradiction so much, but that was there in this book and I loved it because of that. I'm so passionate. Like what the hell. So the next book that I read was A Touch of Darkness, Hades and Persephone story by Scarlett St. Clair. I gave it 3 stars because even though like the story is going good, but I don't know why at some point I just felt like the characters uh, were talking about Greek mythology, sort of like a sprinkle on top, and nothing was lining up for me. Some in like, why is Persephone like going and partying after after everything, even though she says she doesn't like? I'm confused with the characters in this one. That's why I just read the first book. I did not continue the series. This year, like, I sort of started so many series but did not continue. And I have been looking and looking for a good series for me to just like stick to. The next book that I read was A Prayer to No God. It was a monster romance book, and to all the girlies who loved Venom, who are in love with Venom, this book was for you. This was another of those Instagram recommendation books that you don't know like would turn out good, because you in Instagram they would just like read one line and you're like excited to read it, and then it's just that line. It's a bit disappointing, if I say so myself. Next book that I read was Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. This was sort of like a novella, I think so. I read it in one day. It felt like just a small section of a story that could have been a bigger story. It just sometimes feel like I'm in some sort of reality TV show where they give you like points. And I don't know like if anybody will ever even like watch this whole video of just me ranting about books. But it's just something it's just something so close to my heart, and I wanted to make this video. So the next one I read was Midnight Message. I have thoughts about this book. The first half of this book was so addicting. Like, I was so happy because I was feeling that I have found the book that I would like. I mean, like a lot in like this year. But then it just fell apart. There was everything: stalking, a little bit of bullying, a little bit of stalking back. But then, like after 50%, I don't know what happened. There was such a big disconnect with the characters. The writing felt so inconsistent. I felt like as a reader, you were abruptly tossed in different directions of the book, and you just like lose track of time. I do love a book that is not working itself in chronological timeline, but this was not it. It was not the time skip and time jump sort of thing. It was just messy writing. I think so. I mean, I feel a little bit. I feel a little bad saying that. It's just how I felt. Even though this book had happy ending, I just felt so dissatisfied with everything. Like the whole book at the end sort of felt a bit rushed. That is why I have this dissatisfaction with this book. The next book I read was The Jackass in the Class by Amy Award from the Cocky Kingman series. If you remember, I read this series in 2024, I think so. This whole series is more about plus size women finding love. I do love a plus size romance, and it's the fact that it just like has a lot of relatability factor that sort of makes you feel for these characters more and more. And saying this myself, because I do also have a lot of body dysmorphia, that just like it's just like it's sort of like a breath of fresh air, where the character that you read about is not a thin 20-year-old something who can do everything, just has like the best banter. I mean, come on, girls. I do like these books, even though like sometimes you sort of feel like they are getting a little bit repetitive with the books. But I feel like as for the repetition of these books, it's best to read them like spread apart and not one after the other. That just like sort of makes it feel a little bit more repetitive. Because of like I'm saying this because I read The Jackass in the Class, then I read The Goat in the Bedroom, and then I read The Tiger in the Sack back to back. That's why I had this thought. Otherwise, I enjoyed this whole series, and like the dynamic between the whole family and the characters is just something I think so, something I yearn for is what I want to say. Um, anyway, the next book I read was Shadow and Bone from the Shadow and Bone series, the first book. This was a book I had already read, so this was a reread. I read this like a few years ago, and this I picked up this book specifically first because I had already read it and I knew that I liked the storyline in the first book, and I had not read the second book, like at least not all of it. So I wanted to continue the story and I wanted to read physical books because ever since I have my Kindle and ever since I have the audiobook thing, whenever I'm painting, I am listening to an audiobook. Whenever I'm taking a walk, I'm listening to an audiobook, or like reading on my Kindle, and I would rarely pick up a physical book. And this time, I really wanted to read physical books more. I started reading this one. I love the whole storyline that's going on. And currently, at this point, I am reading the second book, Siege and Storm, and I'm loving it so far. I mean, some of the characters are insufferable, but that's what happens when there are these fantasy books that they give you all sorts of characters, and you see how the first book and the second book is different, how the characters that were introduced in the first book sort of grow out of their childish ways, or sometimes you see them grow into a relatively different perspective than you thought they were going on in the first book. I don't know, like that's what I think about some of the time. The next book that I read was Assistant to the Villain, and the book after that was Apprentice to the Villain. And these books, I love it so much. I just cannot tell you. I mean, the whole series is just so funny with the specifically the name of the things, like the malevolent guards and this and that. Like there is a villain and there is like a, obviously if there is a villain then there is like a king and a hero, whatever whatnot. It just like is so funny with the names, and I feel like it's intentionally like that. And the whole thing about the character interactions is so fun to read in this book. I do love the character interactions, and I do love when they give storylines to the background characters that are not really the male and the female main characters. They have a life of their own, they have a story of their own, they have a romantic partner of their own, like there is romance budding somewhere in the background, and you just like, I just eat that shit up. It's just so fun to read. I cannot. And the fact that there is so much angst and yearning and slow burn romance in these books is so fun to read. And I, like sometimes you feel like I just don't want the instant connection. I love a good slow burn romance. Even the characters, if they only kiss for 2 books, I am good with that. I just love the world building and how the characters interact with each other, and this slow like dose of romance that you keep getting in the middle. That's fun to read, I think so. Now, in all of my reading up until now, I did not finish 2 books. One of them was How Not to Raise the Dead, and the second one was Stalked by the Kraken. The problem with these 2 books was, I don't know, I wasn't relating to the characters, and I gave them their chances. I read until like 20% ish of these books, but nothing was gripping me to hold on to these books for like more than that. Next, there is this other book that I started reading that I had in my TBR for a while, Master of Salt and Bones by Carrie Lane. And I have loved the Carrie Lane book Nocticadia. It was one of my first, second, third, fourth read when I started getting into reading. But I paused reading this book for some reason, because obviously I I'm not really liking the constant flashbacks that this book has, like after everything, and the flashbacks are not like engaging me enough, and I feel like there are so many taboo things in this book, but I feel like they're just like there for the shock of it, not really adding to my experience as a reader in the book. I just don't know how to feel about it, because Nocticadia was something I really enjoyed reading. So I don't know what to think about this book. So, and now for the last book. It is something I'm currently reading, is The Taskmaster. The book is Chef's Kiss. I cannot. Like, the male main characters is unaliving people left, right, and center. And it's just so fun to read. I don't know if the story is about a serial killer. It's just so fun to read. I just cannot. I will give a review of it after I have finished the book. So, yeah, that was all I read in 2026 so far. So, in my reading challenge of 2026, I've read a total of 31 books out of 75 book goal that I have set for myself. Did not do more than that. It's okay if I even like not reach it. I mean, there's no harm done. There's only books read and knowledge gained. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, because I have been talking for like 45 minutes straight. I hope you guys have fun reading throughout the rest of the year, and leave your recommendations down here in the comments, and let me know if you have read the books that I'm talking about and what you guys think about it. And let me know if you guys enjoyed this whole talking session. And if you guys missed me, because I missed you guys so much. Sort of feel like Nikki, because obviously I'm obsessed with obsessed. I even got the One Wish pillow. Should I show you? Wait. Dun, dun, dun. I got the One Wish pillow. Yeah. Should I do a movie thing? I have not watched much movies this year though. Have fun reading. Bye.